Jake Coetzee defines synchromysticism as the art of realizing meaningful coincidence in the seemingly mundane with mystical or esoteric significance. Here we see the front cover of an issue of The Economist from 1988, and you can see that it says, "Get ready for a world currency." And the currency that they have, a little coin depiction, has the year 2018. So, as we know, the Bitcoin price at the moment is going through a phenomenal increase. There's been a bit of a correction recently, but for the last few weeks it has been going absolutely crazy. And naturally, now that Bitcoin are at 15,000 US dollars per coin or thereabouts, it's getting a lot of mainstream attention, and people who previously were very skeptical of Bitcoin or who, for whatever reason, weren't particularly interested, well, more and more people are becoming interested now, if for no other reason than they think that maybe they can get rich quick. But what I'm looking at here, what I'm interested in, is the symbolic significance of this front cover. Because what I see when I look at this is a symbol that looks a little bit like Saturn to me. I think you could interpret this a number of ways, but one way would be to notice that it looks a little bit like Saturn. If we're to zoom in on it and tilt it just a few degrees, you can see there that that looks a little bit like Saturn. And many of you will also be familiar with the significance of the hexagram and the hexagon, its relationship to the cube, and its relationship to the number 666, or to 36 36s, these kinds of things. Now, already at this early stage of the video, I'm sure I've lost the attention or the interest of a number of viewers, because to a lot of people, this is either not interesting or it's not significant, and that is perfectly understandable. One of the things that I've come to realize is that these sorts of symbols, these sorts of coincidences, these sorts of things will only be interesting to a small percentage of the population. That is the reality of the matter. And you can't force someone to be interested in this. And even if you could, why would you? If somebody doesn't find this significant or interesting, I say that's perfectly fine. We all just have to live the lives that we think are best to lead and follow our interests where they take us. But for those of you who are interested in this, you're probably already familiar with some of these connections and coincidences between the hexagram, the hexagon, the cube, and Saturn. Just a little refresher course, if you look at a hexagram, you'll notice it has 6 points, 6 triangles, and 6 sides. Those 6 sides look just like a hexagon. And of course, a hexagon is only 3 lines away from looking like a cube. A cube itself is made up of 6 sides, which, if you were to unroll it, forms another symbol that is significant to a lot of people. Then if you look at the angles within a hexagram, you'll notice that you've got 2 triangles, each with 60 by 60 by 60 degrees, which totals 360, which some people see significance in, because 360 degrees, you drop the 0, you've got 36. Obviously 3 sixes is significant to a lot of people. And if you add up the numbers 1 to 36, you come to a 666. What's also interesting is if you look at a barcode, there's a 666 embedded in every single barcode. A 6 at the front, a 6 in the middle, and a 6 at the back. And already you can see some other similarities or coincidences with Bitcoin. While on the one hand you've got people trying to roll out the blockchain and have all transactions listed forevermore in a digital record, a digital public ledger, that is the blockchain, which is the technology that underpins Bitcoin. While you've got people rolling out the blockchain, it's already the case that we've got barcodes, and every barcode has this 666 embedded within it. Now, many of you watching this will already know the direct relevance between this and Saturn, but for those of you who don't, let's take a look at an image of Saturn, which comes to us via the jpl.nasa.gov, the Jet Propulsion Laboratories. This is a photo of Saturn, or an image of Saturn, that is meant to be an official story image. This is not doctored or anything like that. And what you'll notice, if we zoom in a little bit there, is that according to the official people who tell us about these things, if you can get close enough to take an image of Saturn, you will see a hexagon on the top. You'll see a hexagon on the top of Saturn. Could be a complete coincidence, and all we've done here is take a quick little overview of the relationship between Saturn, 666, cubes, hexagons, hexagrams, and of course the barcode. But the point here is that to some of you, this will all be interesting, significant, worth putting more time and effort into investigating, whereas to some of you, it will not. And I don't believe that it's my place to tell you whether this should or should not be significant to you. What I will say is that there are a group of people who look at these kinds of things, and by investigating their work over the past few months, I think I've managed to broaden my own perspective, my own horizon, my own way of trying to assess this kind of data in a way that makes my life more meaningful and more enjoyable. Because you see, there are a lot of people who would look at all of this and instantly have a negative kind of reaction to it. If you're not one of these people or you haven't met them, you might find this hard to believe, but to a lot of people, 666 is an inherently bad or evil number. The hexagram is a bad or inherently evil symbol. The relationship between the cube and the hexagram is evidence of some kind of truth in plain sight, or it's the 3 sixes in the barcode is definite evidence of some kind of nefarious agenda. And so to a lot of people, just looking at this collection of images will evoke within their mind negative reaction, whether it's a very simple, very unimportant reaction, or it actually does get them feeling more tense when they see it. A lot of people have had it almost drilled into them like Pavlovian conditioning to associate these symbols and these numbers and these relationships with something negative. And I can completely understand that perspective because I was probably more of that way of thinking myself a year ago, a couple of years ago. Now that I've had more time to investigate the work of other people, I'm more open-minded to different perspectives on different things. And the great thing about thesyncbook.com is that they've opened up their archives for the rest of the year. So they've got literally hundreds of hours of podcasts that anybody can go and check out right now without having to sign up as a member. And I have no relationship with the Sync Book. I've never spoken to any of their people. This is me simply endorsing their work because I feel it's had a good effect on me. So if you're somebody who, like me, is interested in these connections and the symbolic importance of them, and you want to investigate further, and you're open-minded to the possibility that what you've previously been told was evil is not necessarily evil. If you're open-minded to reconsidering those kinds of things, or just hearing the other perspectives of other people, I think these guys at thesyncbook.com could be right up your alley. And I first became aware of their work at the start of this year, many, many months ago, and I was so impressed by it that I went and purchased the 2 books that they promote. There are 2 sync books, each of them with about 26 authors, giving their take on sync, symbolism, the connections between things, what it means to us, what it can mean to us, whether we have any right to say that this means this and everyone has to agree, all of these different kinds of things, with a little bit of conspiracy and alternative views thrown in there as well for good measure. That's what these 2 books look at. So what I've also done is I've put together an article available completely for free on my website where I simply explain my experience with the sync books, reading the books, listening to the podcasts, and reconsidering some of these things in my own life and the way that I interpret information, connections, and coincidences. So what I'll do is I'll link to thesyncbook.com in the info box below, and I recommend you go and check out their podcasts. I'll also link to this article so you can go and check out for yourself to see my experience with the sync books and what I got out of the experience. And what I've also done is I've embedded my own sync video within this article. So this is a video that was previously available only to full members of my website. I've now made it available to you and to everybody as well. This is a video that was inspired by what I learned and what I feel like I gained from engaging with thesyncbook.com, their podcasts, their books, and the many videos that their content creators have put together. So if you're interested in all of that, go and check out the links in the info box below. And while I've got your attention also, I have uploaded the first Skype call, the first JLB member Skype call, where myself and a few other people, you can see them there, Chad, Fung, and Mezzi, we recorded one of our member calls, and we've made that available to full members of the website. And we discussed in this particular call Bitcoin and Tether. And in that conversation, we were talking more about the exoteric, the surface level, the straightforward things that we can discuss about Bitcoin and Tether and the price rise and what have you. The exoteric being contrasted with the esoteric, which is when we look at things more like these kinds of symbols. And of course, the one that got me making this video in the first place, the Economist front cover. So when I look at this front cover now, and I see that connection to Saturn, what I think is a connection to Saturn, I fully understand that that is a connection that I'm making in my mind. I'm seeing the similarity between this symbol, which could be interpreted in many ways, with Saturn, and then looking at the meaning that that has to me and the meaning that it might have to other people. What I'm also doing is looking at the rest of the cover, and I see things like this. Takashita comes to town. I have no idea what the surface level or official story of Takashita is, but in my mind, I can't help but make the connection between Takashita and Satoshi. Satoshi Nakamoto supposedly being this lone wolf, some young Japanese man who released the Bitcoin idea or helped drive the idea of Bitcoin. I don't believe in Satoshi Nakamoto being a real person. I think it's all just a front story. But the point is that on this Economist cover, where they're talking about a world currency in 2018 with what looks to me like a Saturn symbol, the second story being promoted on the cover, Takashita, which to me resonates with the idea of Satoshi. But you can see how this is very much a subjective interpretation, and what I would suggest to you, and what I think the Sync Book people would suggest to you as well, is that we all get to come to our own subjective interpretations of these things, and then what meaning that has to us is entirely up to us, which goes back to that quote from the start from Jake Coates talking about how synchromysticism, as he calls it, is simply the art of finding meaningful coincidences. How meaningful these coincidences will be is entirely up to you. But that's it from me on the 10th of December 2017, so go and check those links in the info box below. I do recommend you go and check those out and see where they take you. They might take you nowhere, or they might open up new ideas and new ways of looking at things, which can be beneficial to you and the rest of your life. 10 December 2017, John the Bond signing off, and until next time, you guys, take care of yourselves.